Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seps Paranormal Podcast. My name is Paul Cagle, and joining me today on the show is my host, Eric Aldridge.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
How are you doing, Eric?
Oh, it's a marathon today, I gotta tell you.
It really is, and the reason for that being that we were interviewed by Beyond the White Noise Paranormal Vidcast with Mo and Kurt earlier today. And so Mo is from the UK, so they're several hours ahead of us. And so we recorded a live video show at 5 p.m. my time, which is what, 3 p.m. your time?
Yep.
And we talked with them on that, and it was a video cast that we did on Google Hangouts, and then it was shown on YouTube while we were recording. So what did you think about that?
I was glad we were wearing clothes, but you know,
Me too.
We had
Everybody
a lot
else
of
was
fun.
too.
yeah. The viewers of that had no idea how happy they were, but those guys were a lot of fun. What a couple of good guys.
Yeah, we really did enjoy it, and that was our first video interview, I believe.
Yeah.
I know it was pretty much we've done a live show with the Enigma Project before, but as far as I know, that was my first live video interview on the computer. I've done television, blah, blah, whatever, but this was my first video cast or, show like that where we were interviewed. It was a lot of fun, and we just wanted to say hi to Mo because he listens to the show, to the Seps Paranormal Podcast, and he said he has for a while. Feel for him there.
Yeah,
So,
I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah. So Mo, thanks for listening, and thanks for having us on your show. It was awesome, and we just wanted to mention that and just let you guys know what a busy day it's been. We did Beyond the White Noise Paranormal Video Cast. We're doing the Seps Paranormal Podcast now. And then tomorrow I have the Enigma Project at 8 p.m. live that I have to do. So for me, that's 3 shows in 2 days.
Right. And you know what happened is right at the end of the video cast show that we did, my house was overrun with in-laws. I had grandma, aunt and uncle, and brother-in-law. It was all here.
Sometimes that's worse than a haunting.
Yeah, and then so I'm sitting there going, okay, you guys, I mean, you're having fun out here, you're laughing, but I got another show to do.
Right.
I got to go back into the Den of Zen and get preparing for this. So.
The Den of Zen. Yeah, and we were talking a little bit earlier, and I was like, aren't you just glad that they didn't show up 2 weeks ago for the Naked Podcast show?
Yes, indeed. Yep. Yeah, because Grandma always wants a hug, and she wouldn't have wanted a hug that day. So yeah,
I could see her in the middle of that show. Let me go in and give Eric a little huggy poo. Eric, oh my heart. And for those of you who know that, I was going to say that was an accurate representation of Eric's grandmother. So you're welcome. I am multi-talented and multifaceted, so whatever.
Oh boy!
But we just wanted to say thank you to the guys for having us on their show. That was awesome. We had a lot of fun, and it was something different. So we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really cool. I enjoyed it.
So on this topic, we have decided we wanted to talk about haunted trails around the U.S. And this kind of first came to light on a Facebook post that I saw about haunted trails. And I was like, really? Haunted trails? I like unusual haunted places. And we've done a show on that where we talked about like ambulances being haunted and a certain section of a train track being haunted and boats and stuff like that. And, we've talked about houses and land, but I never really thought about a haunted trail. And so I really found that kind of interesting. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Eric, before we get into some of the details, is do you think it's a haunted trail or do you think the land is haunted?
Well, I got to say right off the bat here that I must have misread your message. I thought it was haunted trials. So all of my 2 weeks of research has just gone out the window.
Or
So
we
I'm going
could
to have
talk
to
about
wing it
that.
here.
We could just talk about that.
No, no. But yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, hauntings can be attached to the earth. It doesn't have to be attached to a building. I mean, just an important moment in history or a tragic event, can get trapped in the land. So yeah, there's no reason that trail can't be haunted.
Well, and I think it's important to point out, though, that I don't think it's just the trail itself.
Right.
I don't think it's while you're on the trail, you're in a haunted area, and as soon as you step off the trail, then suddenly you're in a safe zone. I don't think you're safe at all anywhere, ever. Especially not you, Eric. I don't think you're
Yeah.
safe anywhere.
Never get off the trail.
Never, never cross the streams. But yeah, I think it's important to note that I think it's the area or the land that is haunted rather than the trail. But there are trails that you can walk, and I thought it was interesting that one of the very first ones that they mentioned on this top 10 list. Now, take into consideration that this is someone's top 10 list. It doesn't mean it's the only list. It doesn't mean it's the right list, but it's by backpackerverse.com was where I pulled this information from, if you guys wanted to look that up later yourself. But the number one that they mention on here is Norton Creek Trail, Great Smoky Mountains, North Carolina. And we are not that far away from the Smoky Mountains. Uh, we're a couple hours away. Gatlinburg and all that is on one side, and then I guess maybe Norton Creek Trails on the other. I'm not sure. But have you ever been to the Smoky Mountains?
I have not. No, that's a long way from home for me.
Yeah, it's a really cool place. We used to go there when I was a kid. I don't think we ever went on any of the haunted trails, but I think it's interesting that on these trails they don't just mention ghosts. They also mention other things like Cherokee legends and mythology, because this one is talking about the warning of the legend of Spearfinger, which is a witch that supposedly haunts Norton Creek and feasts on wayward children. Um, Now, Spearfinger is an ancient Native American legend where she is looks like an older squaw, like they call them, and she has a long finger that looks like a spear, and she waits until you're sleeping or she has you paralyzed, and then she scoops out your liver and eats it.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's mostly with children, but I think she's a shapeshifter, and her skin is stone. It's like stone. It's really rough. I mean, there are a lot of different legends about Spearfinger, I suppose, but yeah, that's one of them, and they talk about her being up there and possibly killing and eating people. But that's one of the things I wanted to point out about this list, that it is not all just ghosts. And
Right.
when I talk about haunted trails, I kind of think about ghosts. I don't know about you, Eric, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear haunted is ghosts. So
right,
yeah.
right. But I guess Spearfinger being a witch, I suppose she could haunt it. But it also goes on to say, fortunately for lost hikers, there's a helpful ghost in the area. Several hikers have reported that a mysterious floating light has led them away from danger and towards safety. And I think it's of note that they're not just talking about negative hauntings; they're talking about positive hauntings as well. That there is a light that leads people away from danger. What do you think this is? I mean, what are your ideas on this?
Oh boy. With not experiencing it myself or anything. I mean, it sounds like to me personally, it sounds like a old campfire story. Something you
Right.
when you're camping out there, you want to gather around the campfire and tell the kids about the witch that'll come and eat them in the middle of the night, and you know. But as far as the light that guides them back to safety, that's really cool. I have no idea what that would be.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think it could be noted that this could be a forest entity, a creature of the forest that, or a protector of the forest, if one believes in that kind of thing, that helps to lead people out or away from danger. It doesn't always have to be a ghost or someone who has passed away there or anything like that, you know. Um, I think that it could be a spirit, energy, entity, or ghost.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to get way out there a little bit, I mean, maybe it could possibly even be a fairy. I mean, is that that
What'd you
area
call
back?
me?
I didn't call you anything, I promise.
Okay, just
But
checking.
I mean, isn't there? Isn't that one of the? I mean, in the
Yeah,
Smoky Mountains, isn't that kind of a hot spot for fairy sightings?
I believe so. I remember someone talking about, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. It may have been Springwolf because she loves fairies. But I remember someone talking about that being a fairy breeding ground. Maybe I don't know what the word is for it, but a very hot spot. Yeah.
Hmm.
But
I mean,
one could go
it's a
ahead.
possibility. I mean, I
Right, and
don't
one
know.
could argue, angel, uh, or a ghost, someone that passed away there that loved to hike and loved to help people, and it knows when people are in trouble and kind of helps them out by getting them to a safe place. So,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know how many people have actually experienced that. I mean, was it one family or, has it been multiple people over, 60, 70 years have seen this? There's just not, there's not enough backstory on that article.
right. And, and the article that was written was just, I guess, for a fun little info thing. And, I don't know why they wrote it, but it's some information is there and some isn't. But that's a good point, that we don't know who, what, where, when, how, why,
Right.
all that good stuff. So we're just basically going over this because we found it interesting, and I'd never thought of it from this standpoint.
Right.
Had,
Right.
had you thought of like haunted trails and stuff like that before?
Well, I mean, the Oregon Trail is right in my backyard. It's within walking distance from my house. And, I've heard a lot of really cool stories, like at Massacre Rocks, um, Rock Creek at Stricker. I've talked about Stricker on this show several times. It's one of the places we've investigated, which was an old stage stop along the Oregon Trail that was very active when we investigated it. So when you first said haunted trails, I mean, Oregon Trail was the first thing that came to mind because there's so many places along that trail that there had been battles or people have passed away where they've had to cross the Snake River. So yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Right. And did you say you guys had investigated a part of that?
Yeah, the Stricker Ranch. The Stricker Ranch was a stage stop along the Oregon Trail. It was a place to stop and trade for supplies. Um, it's I mean I cannot remember where the Oregon Trail and the California Trail split, but I believe it's after the split where we're at right here. I believe the split's more east of us. But yeah, so I mean, this was like the biggest trading post along the Oregon Trail, for 2, 3, 400 miles. And I mean, they even have a cemetery out there. Some of the people, the travelers that didn't make it, that got sick, that passed away, when they got to the next stop, that's where they buried them, and that's where they're still at today.
Did you guys find any evidence?
Yeah, sorry, I had to hit the cough button.
That's
Yeah,
okay. That was me
we
on the first show today, coughing left and right.
Yeah, I didn't get hit with the coughs on the first one, but I'm getting it now. Um, you know, in a we were only able to investigate until 1 in the morning because the Stricker site is owned by the state and they have certain laws they
Yeah.
have to be out of there. But in that 3, 4 hours that we investigated, we got 9 minutes of audio, including a disembodied voice. that said, why is the light off in Clyde's room while they were doing an
I remember you
EVP
talking
session?
about that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they were doing an EVP session in Clyde's room at the time. I need to post that video up on our Facebook or something so people can see it. It's actually property of Pocatello Paranormal Research right now. Um, they helped us with that investigation. So yeah, we caught. It was mostly EVPs that we caught at that one. Not a lot of orbs. Nothing else. I got sick. I usually don't get sick and lightheaded, but I got sick at that one too. So
Well, I like EVP, so that's we usually go toward EVP because they're easier to get than uh, like video or you know EMF or anything like that. You can generally get an EVP quicker than you can anything else. So,
right, right, yeah, and that one, the "Why is the light off in Clyde's room?" I believe we caught that on 3 different recorders at the
oh,
same time,
nice,
and I mean it was a disembodied voice
right,
because several of the investigators heard it as it happened. That's why we went back and listened to it at the time. So yeah, I mean that was and you want to. That's one of the places in southern Idaho that people want to talk about. That everybody that's gone out there has had some sort of experience.
right. Well, that's cool. It's very cool that everybody heard that, and you guys went back and listened to it. So you actually got, mentioning haunted trails, you've actually got audio data from part of a haunted trail.
Yes, absolutely.
That's very interesting. We
Yeah.
should have gotten it and played it on the show.
Well,
That would have been cool, but
I'm not that prepared. You, I don't know why you haven't figured that out yet.
I know we had a lot to do today. I mean, that was one of those things that
uh,
we had way too much to do to really, prepare for the show at all. So,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not even sure we had the right topic. Good luck with that.
Consider consider yourself lucky we're here at all.
Yeah,
It's history.
really. Or, consider yourself unlucky, whichever way you want to look at it. Who are we to judge? But yeah, um, so those were a couple of the things that were on this list. Another one is the Appalachian Trail in Virginia, and it says 4-year-old Odie Powell was out collecting firewood when he suddenly vanished in 1891. 5 months later, Odie's body was discovered near Bluff, Montana. Some say that panic led Odie to run in the wrong direction and die from exposure, and there is a little memorial out there to him. And some backpackers who have spent the night at Punch Bowl Shelter have reported seeing Odie wandering with his wandering spirit with firewood in hand. Now, my question is this: how do you know that's a spirit and not a little boy out collecting firewood?
Well, did I hear you correctly? He disappeared in Virginia, and how long? How long until he was discovered in Montana? Did
Uh,
I hear that right?
let's see. My computer's doing stuff. It just says it's the Appalachian Trail in Virginia, and it said he was out collecting wood when he vanished in 1891. 5 months later, he was discovered near Bluff Mountain.
Oh, Bluff Mountain. I'm sorry. I thought you said Bluff, Montana,
I
and
may have.
I was going. That is a long. I don't care 5 months or not. That is a long time
Honestly,
or
I
a
may
long
have
way
said
away.
Bluff, Montana, because
Okay.
I was trying to do three things at once, and it
Okay.
is
All
not
right.
working. My computer is giving me issues, so I'm trying to fix that, read, and do one other thing, and it's just not working correctly. But anyway,
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what time of year it was. I mean, because you start to get hypothermia, you're not thinking straight, and I mean, you can wander off until the elements get you. So once again, there's not a lot of info there to
right.
set
But
up the situation.
my thing is this: if you're camping and you see a little boy carrying firewood, how do you know that's a ghost and not an actual kid that's collecting firewood for his family?
Right, right. Well, I mean,
I guess if you're the only ones out there, you would know, but
yeah. Is it like a translucent image, or see-through little boy packing firewood, or does it actually look like a little boy carrying firewood? But I mean, as I don't doubt it. I mean, that is a very traumatic situation, and yeah, I mean that could just be like residual energy, like we've talked about before.
Right.
That's just something that just keeps replaying over and over. In
Because
that,
that would suck if your ghost was stuck out there, kind of bringing firewood back, and you're lost the whole time.
right? Yeah, and there's nowhere to ever take the firewood. So,
That would truly suck. But it would be
uh,
interesting to see a ghost while you're out backpacking or camping or whatever. So
yeah,
number three is White Sands National Monument, New Mexico. If you happen to be there or be here during sunset, keep your wits about you because that's when you are likely I'm sorry, I can't read today. Likely to encounter the ghost of the Great White Sands, otherwise known as Pavla Blanca. And native legend states that the ghost Pavla Blanca was once a Spanish maiden. Her lover and husband to be, the conquistador Hernando de Luna, met his demise in the White Sands Desert in 1540. Pavla roams the desolate sands, still wearing her flowing white wedding gown, searching for Hernando.
that, that
Da-da-da!
I could hear you tell that story all day. That was great. You did
Yeah, it
awesome
wasn't.
there.
It really wasn't. It was me trying to read and having problems. Um, and this is something that I want to note on this one is that we did a show, I guess right around Valentine's Day this year, maybe, for the Enigma Project on paranormal romances. And let me just tell you, trying to find stories of ghosts that one is lost love, whatever, is very difficult because there are hundreds of novels out there in the category of paranormal romance, and it is right nigh impossible to to find one that is not actually a book genre. But this seems to be a common theme with, a lot of some of the women in white mysteries or hauntings is jilted bride, lost love, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, and that seems to be what this is more than like a trail type deal.
Right. Yeah. Waiting for somebody to return to them that's never going to come. Yeah.
Right. The eternal longing and waiting and that kind of thing.
And I think we talked about that being, maybe a residual thing of people seeing that it just, it just replays itself over and over because it was so
Right.
traumatic.
And that would be a horrible way to spend eternity is waiting for someone you loved and that you were waiting for during life, and now you're stuck in death waiting for them as well.
Right.
And that's kind of a horrible way to exist. So hopefully it isn't a residual haunting, which is more like a recording than it is anything else.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you on that one.
yeah, but I don't know. Still, the idea of going on these trails and encountering the paranormal. If you enjoyed hiking and the paranormal, this would be a win-win for you.
Right.
Would you go on one of these trails hiking by yourself?
You know, Probably not. I mean, when I go out into the mountains or whatever I do, it's just like the paranormal. I always use the buddy system. I think you're going to get in more trouble by yourself, especially out in the elements.
Right.
So no, I don't think I would go by myself. But I mean, some of these stories. I mean, if I ever had a chance to go check them out and take a group or something, I think it would be a lot of fun.
Well, that's my other question is if you were to take your group out to one of these haunted trails, how would you go about setting up an investigation there?
Like uh, getting permission or
Well,
just
no, I
there's
mean,
the
let's say you have permission and you've got 5 miles of trail to cover. How do you cover that much ground and still kind of um, try to get paranormal data?
Yeah, and something like that, I think it would take a lot of planning. Like I would want to talk to people and find out exactly where things were seen, GPS coordinates if possible.
Yeah, I doubt anybody
And
would have those.
yeah, right, right. But I mean,
Yeah, but
equipment would
narrow
be a
down the
nightmare.
locations.
Right, yeah, but I mean, just equipment alone would be a nightmare. I mean, how many extra batteries would you have to pack in, and you'd only be able to use handheld cameras, and you'd have
Right.
to try to pack as light as you could to go in there.
It would be a lot of audio because audio can cover a wide distance.
Right.
Especially if something's loud and howling or walking down the trail. But the problem that you get into there is trying to differentiate. How do you differentiate on audio between a ghost walking and, let's say, a deer walking?
Right. Uh, yeah, yeah. And you're gonna be dealing with a lot of wildlife, and I mean, you'd have to really do your research on what kind of wildlife are out there. What kind of sounds do they make? Where look for the nature trails and try to avoid them. I guess where they walk to go get water in the middle of the night. But to go out and try to experience it would be a lot of fun. But to actually investigate it it would take a lot of planning and a lot of work.
If your wife would go with you, would you go out there?
Heck no. No,
Really?
because she would get scared and I would get nothing done. I'd spend my whole time
If I
comforting
went
her.
out there with you, would you go out there?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And we could
yeah.
record a naked ghost hunting show out there.
Oh no, no, that's
No,
I,
no, no, I clean. No, I clean.
wasn't that show called Deliverance?
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. It depends on whether or not we're in Tennessee or if we're in Idaho. If we're in Tennessee, we're screwed, literally.
Yeah, right,
But
right.
um, but yeah, I would love to go on one of these haunted trails. I think really the best thing you could do is a camera and a recorder on your person at all times, and maybe set up in groups of two, and then station every half mile down the trail, and and just cover like sections at a time. If nothing's going on, move along. If something is going on, stay and focus on it. That would be one of those things that would be a really difficult area to try to cover.
Yeah. Now,
Um,
now the positives, if you have K2s or any equipment like that, there's not going to be any electricity out there whatsoever, anything to mess with those. So if
except for
you're
your
getting
phone.
K2 hits out in the middle of nowhere, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, except for your phone, because your phone can mess with a K2 meter.
Right, but I mean, you won't have any cell phone service out there anyway, so why
Right, you'd
even
have
have
to
it
turn it
on?
off. But um, yeah, but that would be interesting. I would do it, even if it took a while to kind of cover. It'd be an all day thing or all night thing or whatever. Um, I think it would be more difficult at night because I think that wildlife becomes more active,
Yep.
and I think that it would be more difficult to try to cover um, a larger section of these places. But for those of you who don't know, hauntings don't only take place at night. It's just that that's when we record because it gives our night shot cameras and IR and full spectrum cameras more light to record in than just the visible spectrum. So that's one of the reasons why we do it at night.
Right, right, and plus at nighttime it's naturally quieter. I mean, especially in a residential neighborhood, let's
Less
say.
human intervention.
Yeah, exactly. Less traffic and things like that.
Yeah. So that's a lot of why we do things at night, and because some people believe that entities feed on fear, and if you're in a creepy situation, you're more likely to lend energy to an entity that might manifest or react or something like that. So
Sure.
those are the reasons. We're not 100% certain, but we certainly don't mind to guess. We can guess all day long.
Yeah, you can do daylight investigations and get every bit as good evidence too. I mean, but yeah, it's just a lot of things are just easier about investigating at
We
night.
know, and that's an interesting point because we several years ago, two friends of mine and I went out to the Chickamauga battlefield here, and you're not allowed to go out there at night without all kinds of permission and forms and everything else. But we went out during the day and we were recording and had cameras and we just did it for an experiment. We didn't have anything else to do. We thought, why not? So we go out there and we're recording and we're out at Bloody Pond. And Bloody Pond is this area. It's dried up now, but it was a pond where the soldiers, when they were shot or maimed or hurt, were said to, during the day, try to drag themselves over to the pond to drink water because they were out in the hot, sun beating down on them and dying. And the blood filled the pond and it turned red, and they named it Bloody Pond. But it's dry now, and we're over there and we're trying to film something. I don't remember what it was. We were doing I don't know, something for video. And on the video, we get a response, an EVP of something that we didn't hear while we were there. And I didn't hear it until I was editing the video later. There were a lot of cicadas out then, and so that messed up a lot of our audio. But I was listening to it, and we had gotten a response of the K2 or something, and one of the guys asked it. No, it was the Ovilus on my phone, and it had said music. And one of the investigators with me had said, "Do you hear the cicadas?" And you hear a man in the background go, "Yeah." That he was answering the question.
Wow.
And it's not one of us because you can see we're not talking. And so I thought that was interesting. And then there was a disembodied voice, and I don't remember what it said, but while I was recording, now it's daylight out there. We're the only three standing out there. I had to stop and think about how many of us were there. We were the only three standing out there. And I went, "Did one of you just say something right beside me?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "I heard somebody say something," and I played it back, and there was a voice. And I don't remember what it said, but there was also a situation out there where at Bloody Pond, in the background, you hear Native American chanting. Now, it sounds crazy. I mean, it's really weird, but it sounds like drums beating in your hey, but it doesn't. It sounds. I don't know how to explain it. There's something weird about it. It's either a language that's very uncomfortable to hear, or it's something that's just like it's very aggressive. It's like hey, almost like a growl.
Wow. Okay.
And I've got it somewhere. I need to find it and play it at some point.
Uh,
But I do have it somewhere. But that was all during the day, and all out at the Chickamauga battlefield. Have you guys ever done a daytime investigation like that or gotten daytime EVP?
it's funny. Just last weekend, one of my team members called me up and said, "Can I borrow the obelisk for the weekend?" And I said, "Sure." Why? She says, "Well, I'm going to go on a tour of the old Idaho State Penitentiary in Boise." Now, the Ghost Adventures got in there, and one of the first shows they did was out there, but it is impossible for little groups like mine to be able to get in there and investigate. They ask for like $1 million insurance bond up front, and so there's a lot of hurdles. But she was going on a tour, so she took the obelisk with her, and she got the word devil twice, and this is all during the day. And then also she was asking questions in one of the cell blocks of, which cell were you in? Were you here? And the number 5, it said 5. And
Nice.
so she got some, this is all during the day. This is in the middle of a tour group. And yeah, so she was getting some pretty cool things out there. There's a couple of places that if I do go here locally, there's one place called Devil's Corral, and the other one is called Devil's Henchman.
Of
Um,
course they are.
Right, but you would have to do those during the day. They're just far too dangerous to do at night. The Devil's Henchman is down in a canyon where there's a large homeless population, and then Devil's Corral is out on the desert with a lot of sharp lava rock around it. And you just would not want to be trying to find your way through there with a flashlight. You would want the daylight. But a lot of people, that go out motorcycle riding out there or whatever have claimed to see things out there. Hey, and it's right next to the river. There was a big Native American population there back before all the settlers came out west. So,
I have been referred to as the devil's best friend before, so I don't know.
but, but yeah, it seems like everything scary around here starts with devils. But yeah,
Right.
um,
Well, I would like
they're
to. I would like to go out and interview. I would like to go out and investigate. I'd like to interview the battlefield. I'd like to go out and investigate the battlefield, the Chickamauga battlefield during the day. You just have to be careful to make sure, like around Wilder's Tower, there are a lot of families and uh, a lot of people going up and down the tower and echoing. So you have to be really careful of noise pollution.
right.
But finding one day when it's really slow out there, like a Monday or Tuesday or something, I would like to do a daytime investigation and see what we get.
Yeah. Any of those old battlefields, that'd be great.
Yeah, and it's like 20 minutes away from here. I mean, I could go there every day if I wanted to, but I would really like to kind of investigate it and see just what we get during the day. Because there are all kinds of stories of people who drive through the battlefield at night and they think, oh, they see a troop going across the streets and they think they're doing a reenactment, and as soon as they drive up to them, they're gone,
Wow.
or they look back and they're gone, and they're just instantly gone. Or something happens where they suddenly see a soldier appear in front of them, and they scream and hit their brakes, and when they stop, they realize they never hit anyone. So
Wow.
there are a lot of stories. I've got a funny story to tell. I don't know if I've ever told you this one, but I've told it on the show before. Where several years ago we were interviewed by a local cable channel here, and it's right across Georgia, right right near the battlefield. I think. I mean, like it's 5 minutes away from there. And the guy that's interviewing us, he's getting freaked out by these stories, and people are calling in with their battlefield ghost stories, and he's like, "Oh, I may have to call my wife and have her meet me somewhere because um, I don't want anything to, follow me home, or hopefully nothing to be in the car with me, And all I do is I lean into you see me just lean into the television, his television frame, and go, "Oh, you won't be alone." And then I lean back out again, and he got so freaked out by that he called his wife to meet him at a convenience store to drive with him through the battlefield because he was so afraid of it.
Well, what did his poor wife do to deserve that? I mean, and
I
what's
don't
she
know.
really going to do?
She could just do it to him later.
Yeah,
But
right.
we do have the legend of Green Eyes around here, and that's one of the battlefield ghosts that I guess sometimes has allegedly attacked people, or people see it or whatever. I personally think a lot of it are people seeing deer, because deer
Sure.
reflect back green eyes.
Yep.
And it's not that uncommon, and they're human height if you get them in the right position.
Yep.
But anyway, that was a tangent. But yeah, I would love to investigate out there. But back to some of the most haunted trails, Grouse Lake and I can't even say this, Chilnualna Falls, Yosemite National Park, California. It says beware of the sound of a whimpering boy. It may be the last thing you hear. Tales tell the story of a young native boy who wandered too far from his tribe and drowned in the turbulent waters. Rumor has it that modern day hikers who try to locate the sound of the whimpering are pulled under the dark waters and drowned. Now, here's my thing: if you hear a child whimpering, why would you stick your head near the water? I mean, I guess if you're trying to locate if a child is stuck under a rock or something, you're trying to rescue them, you might. But it just it seems really weird to me that you would hear whimpering and go out to the water and something pulls you in. I don't know.
R-
What do you think about that?
Right. You know, when it comes to Yosemite, there's a lot of stories of people just mysteriously disappearing out there. A lot of the national parks, there's quite the conspiracy theory network out there that, claim that they're abducted by aliens or whatever. So, when I hear a story coming from one of the state parks, I do tend to pay a little bit more attention to it, but I've never heard the one of, it will just drag you underwater and drown you. And I mean, do their bodies get recovered, from the water? I mean, is there a lot of people being pulled out of this water, or
It's
did they,
possible.
do they just assume that they drown and they don't know where the bottom of this lake is, and so they don't check it? So
Well, I'm just wondering, how do they know if they find a drowned body that they heard this kid crying?
exactly
You know,
right,
if there's no one that
unless
survives and tells the story, then who knows?
yeah, and I mean, I don't know the sound of it. I mean, who is not going to go looking if they hear a child in distress? Who's not going to go looking for that? Number one, I mean, the
Right.
but yeah, you're exactly right. If a child's whimpering, unless there's gurgling or something, I don't want to get too graphic, but why would you be down at the right next to the water, putting your head down by the water?
The only thing I can think of is if you hear a child whimpering and you hear it echoing on the water, you might lean over something to look around to see if the kid is against the bank or has his
Sure.
foot stuck in a rock or something like that, where you can easily get down to them and maybe something grabs you and drowns you. But I think a lot of these are just folk tale and accidents that have happened that people are adding their own spin to. But
It sounds like something that parents would tell their children to scare them from not getting too far away from their parents. Like, don't.
especially near the water.
Right, exactly. Yeah, don't go near the water because there's a monster underneath the water that'll grab you. So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, once again, without having more information or
Right.
experiencing it myself, it's just hard to say.
Yeah. So number 5 is Gold Mine Trail, Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historic Park, Maryland. In 1906, a miner was killed in an unexplained explosion soon after the mine hauntings began by a group of spirits referred to as Tommyknockers. 2 years later, the hauntings began. A watchman reported seeing a creature crawling out of the mine shaft. The watchman described the creature as a ghosty looking man with eyes of fire and a tail 10 feet long. If you'd like to take your chances and go hiking with the Tommyknockers, start your hike at the Great Falls Tavern Visitor Center. I wonder what he really saw crawling, if anything, what he saw crawling out of that thing. Was it a half dead animal and it freaked him out so bad that he thought it had a tail and eyes of fire, or was it reflecting back his light? Or, was it something paranormal? Um, it just, you never know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, without hearing, the witness testimony, I guess, and hearing it through, to me that whole thing sounded like basically a tourist pitch to get people to come out there. Like, ooh, do you want to take your chances with this? And I'm sure the accident did happen. I mean, it's easy to check the documentation of that with
Accidents
the
do happen.
yeah, exactly, with the minor explosion and everything. But I mean, how many people have actually seen this crawling out after them?
Yeah,
And
I would love to know some of this. And I thought some of these told, and maybe that was something else I was looking at, but I was thinking that there were some that said hundreds of sightings. And well, no, here's one. But now we're getting into cryptids, and that's something we've never really discussed on this show because we're mainly a ghostly haunting show. But because of this list, we're going to talk about it a little bit. But this is Batona Trail, New Jersey Pinelands. There have been over 2,000 sightings of the Jersey Devil here. The sightings date back as far as the 1700s. Terrified hikers, those who return, report seeing a creature with the head of a dog, wings of a bat, formed horns, and a forked tail. Isn't that their mother-in-law? Hikers in New York have reported being stalked by the hideous spawn tramping through the marshes. Pineland, Pineland locals often hear unnerving screams deep in the night. Now, I will tell you this. If you are unfamiliar with the woods and you've never lived there, it will freak you out at night
absolutely,
because there are foxes that make noises. There are things that howl and screech and groan and sound like a baby crying. And I grew up in a place like this. I grew up, we didn't even have electricity up there for the longest time. They had to run cable miles and miles and miles out there to get us electricity. We didn't have running water for a while. We had a well. And so you get familiar with some of these night sounds,
hmm
and they are creepy as hell your first night
yes,
there. I remember I remember we were staying at the place where we'd put a place up there, and I don't think we had electricity, so we had the windows open, and I slept right beside the window, and hearing all those noises and movements and just stuff outside my window, I honestly thought I was going to be abducted in the middle of the night by something, you know,
Right.
because
Right.
it is very creepy, and your imagination runs away with you. It was pitch black out there, and all the sounds that these things are, animals are making. Owls don't always hoot the way you think they're going to. They make some odd sounds too. And if you've ever had one of those suckers fly over you, it is creepy
Yeah.
because they make no sound at all. All you see is the moon suddenly gets blocked out, and you see this silent, ghostly thing just go gliding past. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's creepy.
Right. Yeah. No, we actually have an owl that lives in our tree behind our house,
Yeah,
and
we do too.
it'll let out some screeches that will wake you up out of a dead sleep, and you swear it's a demon.
I,
So
I'm surprised you guys. I'm surprised you guys haven't heard the owl on the show before because sometimes it'll get started outside my window, and I've got the window open right now, but I've got the fan off and everything, and I'm surprised you don't hear it. But um, you know, I hear it right now a little bit. But as far as like the Jersey Devil goes, I don't think that any weird sounds in the woods could be unless you're very familiar with it and you hear something you're not familiar with. Then I don't think you can really be considered paranormal. You have to be very careful with that.
right.
But Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, considered one of the most haunted cave systems in the world. Over 150 paranormal incidents. These are the numbers. So, over 150 paranormal incidents have been documented here. Many feel the haunting is due to the horrific deaths suffered by tuberculosis patients who were once housed here. Apparitions and ghostly coughing are reported by hikers when they visit Corpse Rock, which was the stopping point before burial for dead patients. I think they could very easily lead to a haunting.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this was the one that really jumped out on the list that you sent me. Documented. I like hearing the word documented, number one, over
Right.
150 documented cases. And then, talking about tuberculosis, we have an old tuberculosis hospital here in Idaho that, most paranormal teams want to get into. I mean, it's just supposedly very, very active. And to me, it kind of freaked me out a little bit that they were taking these tuberculosis patients down into this cave. I mean, you're already dying of a horrible disease, and they're going to take you into a cave. I mean,
Well,
can you
I think
can you
I think
imagine
I
the fear?
remember I think I remember hearing somewhere, and I could be wrong about this, that actually the air in a cave is better for a tuberculosis patient because it's cooler, it's more moist, there's something about it. I think it actually might help. I would have to look that up. I may be completely off my rocker,
It
but
might help your body, but can you imagine what it'd do to your mind?
oh, I know,
You're
I
all of a
know,
sudden you're underground in this cave.
yeah. I was gonna look and see if there was anything about it. But I don't remember. It was something about um, the air or something. Um, I was just looking to see if I could find anything.
Okay, but yeah, I mean that one would be pretty freaky to go down and investigate. I don't like caves. I'm kind of claustrophobic that way,
Me too.
and so I mean, I mean, especially if you have claustrophobia, obviously that's a fear. You could manifest stuff just with that fear alone. But that would be an investigation that you would have to talk me into. I think. I don't think I would just go volunteering for that one.
Yeah. See, it's some considered steady temperature, constant humidity, and dry air to be restorative. But I think this is a very particular person, um, not everyone in general. But yeah, that would I would go into a cave as long as I didn't have to go through a tiny, tiny little hole and try to pass through it because that would not work. I would tear that place down trying to get out.
I would chew my way out if I had to.
Me too. I'm like you. I don't like small spaces and I don't like being underground with tons of rock on top of me. That just freaks me out.
Right.
But yeah, but the cave, I can see why this one would be haunted, and there are other places like that where people would go underground during the Civil War and hide in caves and stuff. So, I'm
Sure.
sure there were deaths there as well that would lead to hauntings there.
Now these caves, are they part of a trail system? I mean, I'm not familiar with the area down there, so I didn't know if it was part of a trail system that you come to these caves, or if it's
Mammoth
just a,
Cave.
yeah,
It just said considered one of the most haunted cave systems in the world. Um, I think it's pretty large, so I think it's
okay,
part of a system.
okay,
Um, but yeah, because it says considered one of the most haunted cave systems in the world. That's saying a lot.
right.
So it's got to be pretty big. Could you imagine being the doctors that work down there and the nurses and stuff? That would
Ugh.
be not good for mental health, I'm sure. But number 8 is Transept Trail, Grand Canyon National Park, Arizona. Now that's interesting because you don't think of the Grand Canyon as being haunted, but it says hikers here often report. Sorry, hikers here often report seeing a woman in a white dress dotted with blue flowers. She paces the trail and wails uncontrollably. This spirit is known as the Wailing Woman. If you can get past her and make it to North Rim, you'll notice some creepy archaeological ruins. Don't know what they had to do with anything. But one thing I can say is that with stuff like rocks and wind, like the um, what do you call it? Like the Grand Canyon, then you're going to deal with holes and air blowing through them, so it's going to make it sound like somebody wailing.
Right.
So I don't know. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon or?
I have not, but we have a actual cave system around here called the Wind Caves, and it's out on the desert, probably 50 miles from where I live, and that's kind of what it's known for. Is when the wind hits it just right, and the wind whistles through the caves, it almost sounds like it's playing music.
Right.
So yeah, I totally get what you're saying with the with the wind coming through the Grand Canyon. And we do have the Snake River Canyon, which is, not as large as the Grand Canyon. It's where Evel Knievel tried to jump his rocket ship across in the 70s. Um, yeah, I live a stone's throw from there.
Nice.
And, being down in there too, same thing when the wind's blowing. There are some strange sounds just from the wind alone.
Yeah, so I don't think that all of these places can be attributed as haunted just because you're hearing weird sounds. But
Now the people seeing the lady, wearing the dress and everything, that's interesting, and it goes back to what we were saying, about the woman waiting for the man to come home, or trapped waiting for someone forever.
right,
I mean, that seems to fit that same mold right there. So I
right.
don't know, who is this woman and who's she waiting for?
That's yeah. So it could be paranormal. But number 9, Spruce Railhead Trail, Olympic National Park, Washington. Brutally murdered by her husband in 1937, Hallie Latham Illingworth now haunts the murky depths of Lake Crescent and the nearby Spruce Railroad Trail. Known as the Lady of the Lake, she wanders the 8-mile trail loop. It was local fishermen who discovered her mummified corpse. Puzzlingly, the fishermen went missing soon after. Now that's interesting.
That is.
Now, it doesn't give you any additional information on what her haunting is supposed to be. It just says, oh, look, 2 fishermen found her. Now, where are they? So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a little odd.
yeah, you find remains and then you go missing. That's yeah, that's
That's why it
so.
doesn't pay to get involved. No good deed goes unpunished, folks.
Yeah,
You heard it here on the Subs Paranormal Podcast.
and we'll just have to leave that one a legend right there, because I'm not going to go missing going to try to solve some legend. So
I
I'll take
might.
their word for it on this one.
I might. Who knows? Nobody. I would go missing for about 2 days and they would bring me back.
That's what I tell my wife all the time when she worries about being kidnapped. So
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And number 10, Iron Goat Trail, Stephen Pass, Washington. At this trail, you'll go hiking along a 5.7-mile loop. The loop represents a gentle grade for hikers, but a terrifying history for everyone. Nearly 100 lives ended in a railroad disaster in 1910, the worst in U.S. history. The disaster was caused by an avalanche derailing two passenger trains. The trains were moved elsewhere after the tracks were moved elsewhere after the tragedy, but hikers can still delve into the black tunnels. Some say they're abandoned, but others say they are stalked by the ghosts of the fallen, searching for a way out. Yeah, I would not want to be trapped underground either.
And there you go. And it goes back to underground. But yeah, I mean, if people were killed in a train derailment, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there could be some truth to that.
Yeah, especially if you consider, what do you call it, unexpected deaths that are quick. And
Right.
you don't know you crossed over, and you're kind of stuck in this limbo, and you're like,
You may not even realize you're passed away.
right. You just know that people can't see or hear you, and you're stuck in this weird kind of Twilight realm or something. Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
those kind of things make sense to me as more opposed to than some of the other stuff. But I don't know. What do you think about these haunted trails overall? I mean,
The majority of them, I would have to say, they probably rely on these tales for tourism dollars. But, some of them also sound very legit, like the caves with the tuberculosis patients, or the last one you just said with the train derailment. But, I mean, some of them sound kind of hokey, like somebody would think it up to try to bring people, for tourism purposes. But I don't know. Without more information, I'm just going on, my first instinct here.
right. And I agree with you. I think they're interesting. I would love to do some of these haunted trails. If I could find one locally, I would walk it, hopefully with somebody else. I mean, if it wasn't like 25 miles, I could do it by myself. There's one here that's 4.5 miles that I've walked by myself several times, but it just goes in a circle. It's a big long. It's out at one of the state parks, and it goes out along one of the peninsulas and comes back. So it's not like you're going to go out there and get lost. I mean, you're pretty much on a peninsula. You can only go one direction so far, and then you have to come back, turn around, and come back, and you're back on, mainland or whatever. But you're surrounded by the river on either side. So it's kind of interesting. It's very beautiful, and it's fun to walk when it's not 5,000 degrees outside and you're sweating
Sure.
your hair off and that kind of thing because it gets very humid here and especially near the river. But to my knowledge, I've never heard that it's haunted. I have been out there and heard weird sounds. Then a deer comes jumping out of the woods, or squirrels and rabbits, and that'll kind of mess with you because especially when you're kind of off in your own little world and you're relaxed and you're not paying much attention to what's going on, and something jumps out at you, you're like, oh, it's a bear. And, it's a cat, and it kind of freaks you out. But yeah. So I
Yeah.
think
I
that's
mean,
interesting.
I don't know if I had a chance to check a few of these out. I'm sure I would jump at the chance, if for no other reason than to debunk them.
Right. And, that would be difficult too because you've got so much to cover. You've
Right.
got so much area. It's almost easier to debunk information if they hand it to you and go, here's my audio. And you go, nope, that's a wildcat. Listen to this. Here's another wildcat, or something like that. But just having like 5.6 miles of area to cover is very difficult to debunk every single thing that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'd be a challenge. Just
Yeah. So any final thoughts? Because we're out of time and we need to wrap everything up.
If you have a haunted trail near you, grab a friend and go check it out and let us know.
And if you
Maybe
know of
we're
a
wrong.
haunted trail around or near Chattanooga, invite me to go because I'll go with you. I think it would be interesting to go. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Seps Paranormal Podcast. Thanks to everyone who listens. We're going to be back next week, and our topic is going to be the Gansfield experiment. Now, the Gansfield experiment, it's directed more towards psychic experimentation, but I wanted to know if you could turn it around and make it into a paranormal experimentation, and whether or not it would be safe to do so. So we will be talking about that next week. And I hope everyone has a great Sunday night, a great rest of the week. And if you're available tomorrow, check out the Enigma Project, where we will be talking about animals haunting people or possessing people. So check that out tomorrow if you get a chance. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and we will see you all 2 weeks from now. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.